Okay, so there's a couple things I want to refer to in order to add on to this video of me reacting to our Prime Minister meeting with China's leader. There's a couple things I just want to add on. Needing to focus on only money is not a good thing. Financial independence is no longer smart. Survival isn't the scam. Building something half-assed, inherently broken, and easily controllable is. It's about how they get votes and how one ethnicity or population can be more profitable than another. And painting opposition as inhumane for wanting their country back. Not about multiculturalism. Again, would we be fighting, in brackets, as efficiently, against microplastics, for example, if humanitarian aid were viewed as such a necessity the past 20 years, as much as the past 5, in our emotional culture? Feelings and friendship can be useful in support, but there is a threshold, a limit on how useful being cordial, being respectful, being professional can, make happen. There's a threshold on that. It pisses us all off that Carney attends a pride parade in Vancouver while East Vancouver rots, a zombie city, due to his own government's legalization of drugs and hiked cost of living. Yet then he cozies up to China, the largest source of precursor chemicals for deadly drugs, the main source of fentanyl as a drug problem, and just there's other problems as well. There's other security threats such as digital. There's the challenge of culture as well. There's a lot of things there. But there is some cool stuff that's I'll get to that. In the clip of the meeting, I see no actual business, no actual work. It's just to merely tighten the bond. China accounts for less than 5% of Canadian exports, while the USA is about 80%. Just because they are our second largest trading partner is my guess as to the reason why Carney went and met and flattered the Chinese leader, buttered him up. He doesn't want to do, Carney, he doesn't want to do what he was elected to do, work with Trump, who is a better leader than ours by every weighable metric, having inherited sacrifice and corrupt improper values and duties with money above all. Himself, and probably Trudeau, and any other politician that still believes in politics. So that would include Trump. Like all politicians. There has been no actual benefit to Canadians. Not that we should go at each other, Canada and China, though. It seems more like desperation and gassing up of China, just because they are our second largest trading partner. It literally seems like desperation out of, instead of actual good policy. These are the same people who will judge you for your standard of not using a plastic water bottle, claiming you are judgmental and negative and hateful because you have a standard, yet they can't tell you what a BPA is or what a microplastic actually does to the body, self-validating and exerting authority while completely ignorant. Literally one-sided logic being handed legal systems and power and overruling two-sided logic because feelings and money. Normalize not repetitively judging or bullying someone solely within materialism because of your own actions or behavior. Your feelings, realization that you implicitly lost control of your life, are not proper justification for breeding more resentment and fueling the intentional division. You're just growing the human spawner, human machine, and raising another human battery. We are taught and justify and inherit weaponized culture and sacrificial mindset, life building and consumerist choices, because corporations have all the power and no wisdom outside of money. We normalize such bad shit every day. I believe us in the West are not any more fortunate just because we have things, and appreciate what money can do, not what it does do. I wrote that myself. Oh yeah. We must acknowledge that corporations and elites who don't have wisdom outside of money absolutely do want to control us, to make us sacrifice for money. But they also don't want to have nothing to control. They will yield to the power of us, the people. But we get less healthy, less wise, weaker every day that we put up with this dang collective material reality.
We take the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. That means the following. We do engage with countries. We calibrate that engagement depending on our values and our interests, so that engagement is more narrow when there are those issues. We also have, if you will, a sort of value-based realism to the approach. In other words, we will engage on those issues. We'll engage with coalitions on those issues because that has more influence. And we will form coalitions.
This isn't the clip I was after. I'll get it up on my Instagram. That'll be easiest. Oh yeah, I should show this while I'm here. A new report from the RCMP states that the Bishnoi gang, a designated terrorist organization with a history of running extortion and murder for hire operations in Canada, is, quote, acting on behalf of the Indian government. So, like, what the... Yeah, okay. Take that as you will. That's interesting for sure. We have equal immigration. So that's, like, what?
We're gonna do less. We don't, oh shit, we're sorry we didn't do it.
Truth to their power, everything will continue to break. And that is why I had to come here, Mr. Speaker. I refuse to be a cog in their broken machine. I hope it is the case that this darkness left with the former Prime Minister, and I beseech the new Prime Minister to turn to the light, to defend those values enshrined in our anthem: truth, strength, and freedom. I read his book, Mr. Speaker. The book was called Values, and freedom, I'm sorry to say, is not among those therein discussed. The repackaging of their socialist plans in bankers' socks might fool some of the people some of the time, but I will tell you who it is not fooling. It is not fooling the multicultural communities in Kitchener South Hespeler. The Romanians, Albanians, Polish, Ukrainians, Serbians, Croatians, Lithuanians, Venezuelans, Chinese, Somalis, and Ethiopians with lived experience of socialism who know what they are seeing and don't like it and sent me here. They came here for freedom, not just any freedom, but our specific, embodied Canadian freedoms. If we cannot speak truth to their power, everything will continue to break.
This one's really good.
It's not win-win. We're using
So the context is... Okay, so this is the Minister for the Economic Development Agency, and she was there to meet the Chinese leaders with Carney, and they all have... Or no, the journalists all have burner phones because they don't want to be spied on because China does spy.
It's not win-win. We're using burner phones for the first time when we covered this because China spies on journalists and businessmen. China intercepts communications. Is China really the right kind of partner for Canadian industry?
Listen, we've been clear-eyed. We're eyes wide open. We know this. But there's been investments by Canadian companies for years here. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Magna. Magna, one of the biggest car auto parts companies in the world. They have 30,000 people working here. We're meeting with Manulife. We're meeting with BMO. These companies have been in China for years.
Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, just some...
Hey, numbers. Believe me, we're doing good.
Hey, this is a security threat.
Yeah, but we had some good meetings.
Okay, here clarifies he'll go to war with America to defend Greenland.
Greenland, the future of Greenland is a decision for Greenland and for the Kingdom of Denmark. We are NATO partners with Denmark, and so our full partnership stands. Our obligations on Article 5, Article 2 of NATO stand, and we stand full square behind those. Greenland, the future...
Article 5 under NATO means war. So it would be Canada and Greenland versus America. That'd be fucked. That'd not be good. That'd be awful. I don't know much about this. The Emergencies Act. Oh yeah, this was to do with the COVID lockdown, I think. So that's interesting. Okay. The Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, is now disagreeing with the deal with China, saying it will come at the expense of Canadian workers. This guy, you backed him though. Like, what? You backed him. So, like, I mean, at least not afraid to say what he really thinks, but, I mean, it's not really helpful. Oh, I'm not even gonna look at that one. What an interesting deal. Oh, this is quite the graph. Canadians have stopped deleveraging and are consistently taking on more debt to keep afloat. What happens next?
Can't be good.
Household indebtedness worsened slightly in Q1 2025. Household debt, oh my god, look at that. Jesus. It's gonna keep climbing too.
Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg News. Yesterday when you met with Premier Lee, one of the things you said in the public remarks was this partnership with Canada and China, this new partnership, sets us up well for the new world order. What did you mean by that? What is the new world order?
Well, it's a great question, Brian, because I think the world is still determining what that order is going to be. And let's be clear what we're talking about first and foremost, which is what is going to govern global trade? What is the role of the WTO going to be? How important are bilateral deals such as the one we're developing, plurilateral deals, if I can use that term, Trans-Pacific Partnership, the potential linkages between Trans-Pacific Partnership and the EU? Where is financial regulation, payment system regulation going to fit into that? All of these aspects I mean, use fancy word, like the architecture, the multilateral system that has been developing these is being eroded, to use a polite term, undercut, use another term. So the question is, what gets built in that place? How much of a patchwork is it? How much is it just on a bilateral basis? Or where do like-minded countries in certain areas? So like-minded countries, just to be clear, doesn't mean you agree on everything. Aspects, for example, on digital trade or agricultural trade, climate finance as another area. To move into areas of geostrategy, geosecurity, you will have different coalitions that are formed. So what this partnership does is in areas, for example, of clean energy, conventional energy, agriculture, as we were just talking about, and financial services, which we've talked less about, but the evolution of the global financial system, digital trade or agricultural trade, climate finance, the renminbi over time. the evolution of cross-border payments. I know it all sounds very dry, except for your organization, which I think takes an interest in it. These are important
The chalkboard is better, no?
elements of how the system's going to work. And look, the expectation is that rather than these being developed necessarily through the IMF, WTO, and other multilateral organizations, it is going to be coalitions that develop them, not for the world, but for subsectors of the world.
Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg News. Yesterday, when you met with Premier Lee, one of the things you said in the public remarks was this partnership with Canada and China, this new partnership, sets us up well for the new world order.
Bro.
What did you mean by that? What is the new world order?
Those comments are great. So yeah, they're gonna flood a bunch of EVs into here. But we get visa-free entry for Canadian citizens into China. That's interesting. And you can see, yeah, that is bad. This guy is racist.
200 million to black communities.
But only black organizations. Another 2.5 billion to Ukraine. Is this real? This can't be real. Canada spends enough on immigration to pay Canadians $157,000 per child. Chooses immigration anyway. That's fucked. Could you imagine if the government actually gave each of our children $157,000 instead, tax-free? Canada recorded approximately 350k births in 2023, using the midpoint of immigration spending, $55 billion, equates to roughly $157,000 per Canadian-born child, if the funds were instead allocated to domestic family support. I'm gonna fact check this. Okay, so apparently they did not spend that many billions of dollars on the immigration. This is why you fact check. I want to make sure by Googling though, how much did Canada spend on immigration 2023? Yeah, that's right. They actually spent only $5 billion on immigration. It's funny though. Gotta leave a comment, set the record straight.
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
That's pretty fucking accurate, I think, about the story of that 23-year-old woman who was killed by an immigrant trucker. The trucker was negotiated down to like 50 days in jail. And then, like, they removed his bond or whatever because they didn't want him deported or something. I don't even know. But, is it this person? That sounds like the right name? Adriana Milena Macaulay. And the driver pleaded guilty. That was quite the case. But that's pretty accurate.
Time's up. Now get out. If you can't do...
That's pretty accurate.
To all my Canadian friends out there, where are we moving? Where are we moving? Because we can't stay here. We are getting robbed in broad daylight by the CRA, all right? I just finished my taxes for my corporation for the first year of having a corporation. This should be illegal. I never really understood the situation because I'm not too well versed in taxes. I'm not an accountant. I didn't take that stuff in school. They don't teach you that stuff in school. So I never really knew what was going on, but now really seeing it and like seeing the numbers and stuff, I'm like, where are we moving? Because I'm not staying here. Let's go. To all my Canadian friends out there, where are we moving? Where are we moving? Because we can't stay here.
This is Sky Atoa, a resident of Lethbridge, Alberta. Atoa was arrested last month after police found three teenage girls confined in his apartment, where over a period of 3 days they were allegedly repeatedly sexually abused by him and various other men he invited. He has been released on bail. Interesting. These edibles ain't shit. The only monster we encounter is the greed of men. Okay, look at this. Under Trudeau, Canada placed massive effort. Under Trudeau, Canada placed massive tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles in an effort to support Canada's domestic EV industry. China retaliated by placing huge tariffs on Canadian canola seeds and oil. Carney is bragging that he got tariffs removed on canola, but they were only reduced on canola seeds, going from 85% to 15%. Here's why that's bad for the Canadian industry. The process of processing canola seeds and refining canola oil is of higher value than producing the seeds themselves. As of 2024, about half of all canola grown in Canada is used by domestic canola crushers. But under this new deal with China, many of those canola crushing jobs will disappear. China will be able to import our raw canola, make the canola oil themselves, and then sell it to themselves or even back to us. Meanwhile, in return, they get another victory. Reduction on tariffs of Chinese electric vehicles, and they get to flood our market with $49,000 per year. Because hey, being conscious of the climate is definitely worth it, even if it's unaffordable. When in actuality, affordability plays a big role into climate on this planet. It's the same BS. So I'd say that's probably all for now. Probably. Yeah, I think politicians suffer. Yeah, I think politicians suffer in some ways that us average citizens do too. The inherited acceptance and pretending and sacrifice and all this and that. The inorganic cultural normalcy, all that sort of thing that I've talked about. The moral financial contradiction. I don't know, call me crazy, but it seems like these people end up in positions of perceived power the same way each generation ends up with a life not lived to the fullest, definitely not the healthiest, and definitely not in control of what is, and we do not have what should be. Be sure to check out my Discord server where you can chat about almost anything. Be sure to check out my TikTok where I post some political stuff, but mostly just funny stuff as well, and a little bit of both. Do subscribe. The goal is to be the most subscribed Vince on YouTube. My name means to conquer. You can help me do that. I hope this was a genuinely entertaining and enjoyable watch. Cheers.